Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing. Or actually, I keep saying that because we've done it so long like that. This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 187. I am one of many, hopefully, co-hosts today, Lauren Gray with hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com, where we have been every week now for well over 4.5 years, bringing to you the weekly dosages of happiness. No, the weekly events of hospitality, its news, its techniques, its case studies, its methodologies, and so forth, with guest hosts and with co-hosts over the course of time. And I hope that you have been a persistent attendee, and if not, a persistent player back of the podcast, video cast that we do each week. Even though we run at times on average 2 hours, which is not to scare anyone away, but we take the time. We go through a well-curated list by Mr. Robert Cole from Rock Cheetah as to the news topics associated that would be impactful to you for this week in hospitality. And then we also go through techniques and case studies associated with methodologies of how actually to do marketing for hospitality in our current time and era. With that, I am lone and solo, but I do have Mr. Robert's list. So for me, it's an okay thing because I have tons of fun things to talk about. None of the least of which is what he breaks it down into, and this is shared with the HSMAI's marketing board, as well as we try to include also the revenue board, two boards and functions of the HSMAI, Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International's organization, which I'm an ardent supporter of, and this program is actually put in support of them for content. And he puts together a wonderful list. He goes over and breaks it down basically into a top story, which today is Airbnb acquired Hotel Tonight, which has quite a different ramification. And I'm hoping I have company when I speak about it, so I'm not going to jump into that one quite yet. Another one I'd like to touch base on was under a categorization he puts under is brands and product, and that is RLH Corporation unveils R Labs. It's a new subsidiary to house technology innovation for primarily their independent hotelier developers. Then under another categorization, which he calls intermediaries and distribution, it's pointed out that Booking.com pivots Booking Suite into a hotel tech app store. I'd like to touch on that one today as well. And then from a categorization of market and strategy, there is a Loyalty Guide 2019, Get Ready for the Next Decade, which was from LinkedIn, which would be an interesting topic I would like to make sure that we talk about as well. And then in one of his last categories under tech and finance, AI wants to know how you plan a trip. This was brought to us by the New York Times. And I hope we can touch on that topic as well. There are, of course, other topics to it. He has several to choose from. And then we have a Rot-Row, which is our, as he chooses it, a classic reason why not to do something. It's the Darwin Award, so to speak, as to things that were intended one way and ended up being completely different to the other. Now, I did want to bring up to light some things that are coming up in the HSMAI world. Coming up in a week and a half in Colorado Springs at the Broadmoor Resort, which is an amazingly beautiful resort in the middle of what will be a very snowy Colorado Springs by the time we get up there, is the leadership conference for all the chapter members associated. There's 37 chapters, I believe, in the HSMAI organization in North America. And all of their chapter leaders have been asked to be brought together for a leadership training conference. And I have the privilege of speaking to them during this conference. And I'm saying that in this show for those who may be watching the show from those leadership groups of the chapters. I have the privilege of speaking to the chapters quite regularly, actually, that we are going to be taking a good segment of time, an hour, and we're going to be breaking down exactly how to promote and create a brand icon, I say, as for your chapter in your particular market. And what I mean by icon compared to leadership is the ability to lead your industry in your market with thought innovative ways and how to actually make your brand do this. And we're going to break it down into how to use your social platforms, how to create influencers, how to use influencers, how to become an influencer, how to manage and distribute your content in a way that is soliciting engagement and expanding the amount of engagement that it creates from all that so that you turn into an icon for your industry. So that will be our topic for that. It's bred from a conversation I just had at the Las Vegas chapter. I was able to last week go out and speak with them. Intimidating room. I mean, I had CEOs from all of the major players in Vegas in the room. And plus we also had record attendance in the morning. It was a breakfast series, and I had 2 hours to really break down the convergence of revenue management, sales, and marketing. And so we took 2 hours to really show how to do that rather than just talk about that it needs to be done. We actually broke down the functionalities of how to put these pieces together, what data is being used by who has what data, how to put it in a sequence that's usable. We spent 2 hours doing that, but I had a pretty high, I also had an omelet station. They gave me an omelet station, which I thought was amazing. I had an omelet station. I had a smoothie station. I had a breakfast breakout. It was like, I walked into the room and I had, double screens and big platform and confidence monitor. And I'm like, who the heck's speaking here? Good golly, this must be somebody important. I was very impressed. And thank you so much for the hospitality in Las Vegas for being there. It was a lot of fun to show up for that. It looks like Mr. Stuart Butler is going to save me from my rhetorical circular conversations. Eventually. There he is.
Buddy, how are you?
I was just pontificating on my joys of being in Las Vegas. I was very rarely do I get intimidated by an audience, and I had all the big dogs in the room.
Yeah, it looked like it was the who's who of strategy and marketing in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, well, okay, yeah. So it turned out pretty good. It was a lot of fun. I was talking about a little bit about the leadership conference coming up in Colorado Springs that we're going to kind of translate that for the chapters. And I was just kind of waiting for the cavalry to arrive for me before I start jumping into some of these topics because Mr. Robert Cole, who just now joined us, made a great list.
The cavalry?
Yeah. Yeah, you're my Custer. Hey, Mr. Custer, I don't want to go. All right. Remember that was an old song. All right. So I already picked the topics. You got to
I don't remember that song. Could you sing like a few verses of it?
I think you could join the chorus, Mr. Robert. I think you know exactly what song I'm talking about.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
What?
Yeah, I don't know the song either.
Oh, no. Okay, I'll have to send you a link to the song to it. But all right, so these are the topics I grabbed out of your grab bag. So we have to hit these first. One, of course, obviously, is the dun-dun-dun top story, Airbnb, buying hotel tonight. What's really going to hit with that? The others out of brand and product. The RLH Corporation is doing their R Labs, which I find to be very interesting. Intermediaries and distribution. I was looking at the Booking.com with their booking suite because I have a very strong opinion about that.
Yes.
Marketing and strategy. The loyalty guide 2019 out of the LinkedIn. I was there was some things I had some issues with on that, but that's okay. And then under tech and finance, I wanted to hit the AI. Wants to know how you plan a trip. And I didn't say anything about the Rotro, but those are the ones I said, hey, I'd like to talk about. So I've been dying since I read through the Airbnb article, the ramifications of what this means. So can we talk about the top story first?
No.
Come on.
Do you not remember last week? I said we're not allowed to talk about Airbnb for 4 weeks is what I said.
No. I thought that was just kind of like a suggestion. I didn't think it was a guideline.
No. It is written.
But dude, it bought hotels tonight.
Sam Shank and Brian Chesky went out. They watched the show and went, "Let's mess with Stuart. We're going to make him talk about."
We need to get them keep talking about us. I mean, their marketing strategy, to be fair, is getting us to talk about them on this show.
I think
it's got to be. It's got to be. Yeah. But dude, they bought a hotel tonight. That is
it's obvious move, though. I mean, really, when you think about it,
it's a perfect fit. Yeah,
we've been saying this for so long about the industry's in this weird fear of an existential ending of everything hotel related because of Airbnb, and that's not ever been the play. They always were going to be limited in how they could scale doing what they were doing. They could never continue to grow it. And if you look at and one of our other co-hosts, Ed, and I are uniquely, I'd say, qualified to understand what impact this kind of inventory has on the market, because both Orlando and Myrtle Beach have dealt with vacation rentals for a very, very long time.
Yes.
And so we've seen what equilibrium happens in a market over the long term. So I've always said that Airbnb isn't really a big threat to hotels if you take care of your guests. There is a subsection of guests that are always going to go and try these new things, and it might appeal to them at certain periods in their life or certain times of the year when they're traveling for certain reasons. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a demand for hotels if you run a great hotel, right? So Airbnb is ultimately looking to make a lot of money by going public at some point, and in order to do that, they've got to show continued growth, right? That's what the market cares about right now, not profit, but growth. So how do they do that? Well, they've been trying to edge into this direction for a while by partnering with SiteMinder initially, and then opening up their API to other boutique hotels coming in and putting inventory on their platform, because they know, again, vacation rental type inventory is going to be limited. So let's open it up to what they originally called boutique hotels, but they're beginning to soften their language, and it's going from boutique hotels to independent hotels. Right, which is, getting a little broader and broader and broader.
Absolutely.
So they're definitely tipping their hat to the fact that they're becoming an OTA. They're becoming a new distribution channel for anyone in the hospitality industry, which honestly is not a bad thing. I think the more competition we have, the more choices we have, the more control we can have over our distribution strategy. So I really think this is a good thing for the industry. As someone that really represents a lot of hotels that are always struggling to find new distribution channels, this and a lot of whom have dabbled with Hotel Tonight, I think this is great. And what it really does for Airbnb, and why I think it's smart, is it short circuits their need to build a bunch of interfaces, because a lot of people already have integrated with this one. So they just basically bought a big customer base and a bunch of integrations in one foul swoop, and it's really pretty smart.
Well, I like it a lot. Yeah, I do too. Really smart by Airbnb, and the business processes, because Airbnb's thing, and some people I thought were way off base, going, oh, this is great for hotels because they only charge 3% or 5%. Yeah. That's like, whoa, stop. That's what the supplier's being charged. Then there's a fee on it. So they still get up to 15-20%, right? Just like a kind of typical OTA. But when you're selling a hotel under like a rate parity thing, you can't go slap on that extra consumer-facing fee, right? So Hotel Tonight allows them to behave. They can now work in that business environment. And Hotel Tonight always had a really good from the beginning, right? Mobile first, really good, minimal click type of user interface, and highly curated. Now, this is kind of plus or minus highly curated content, right? Now, Hotel Tonight didn't go out there and throw in a bunch of 2 stars and 1 star, and just we need every hotel on the planet. They always had a subset, right?
I think they've gotten away from that a little bit, though. I think they've gotten a lot more aggressive in terms of, or I guess flip it, they've gotten a little more lax about who they'll let advertise.
They had to, right? Because there
was limited inventory, and there's nothing more frustrating as a consumer than relying on a tool like that and then finding out, oh man, I waited till the last minute and now I'm screwed.
I won't do that again.
How are you, sir?
I'm delightful. How are you, Jim?
We're talking about a topic that Stuart had no interest in talking about. He said there was a ban on Airbnb discussions for 4 weeks, and then Robert throws it in his top topic today about Airbnb buying Hotel Tonight as a slap in the face to Stuart, saying, no, damn it, I'm in charge of topics here, not you, mister.
That's right. There's a power struggle. You're in the middle of a power struggle.
I'm not going to take sides except to say that Stuart is very wrong in this case. And
he did not say that Robert was right, though. He just said
that's why Tim and I were a little late getting on the show. We had a little
collusion.
No collusion. No collusion.
Meanwhile, why is everybody in jail that I worked with? What the hell's going on? Anyway, so
that's funny.
Hotel Tonight. Actually, I do agree with you. I think it's a brilliant move. I think from a scary position, from from a strategy point of view, for me, I kind of felt pretty comfortable knowing how to work with Airbnb in a market space and how to compete with them effectively. This does add a new dimension to that, because it does answer a little bit of the short-term aspect that was a weak spot for Airbnb, the ability to conveniently get into that space in a shorter time window. I think there's still some complexities to work out about the restriction policies of refundabilities and so forth. That is a controllable function of the hosts. They're going to have to probably ease their cancellation policies if they want to engage with shorter term pickup, I think, in the sense that to make it a more reasonable relationship, because a lot of people, they do a Robert Cole, they'll book 15,000 places to go to and cull it down over time. And then, if you're going to be stuck with fees, that you have to pay because you canceled, because you booked without actually staying, it's going to be a deterrent for them. So I think in the shorter term, they're going to maybe have to change their cancellation policies to participate at that level of.
But Hotel Tonight doesn't. They don't have.
Yeah. I don't think so, Darren, because I think they can treat different types of accommodation differently. There's nothing saying that they have to have one size fits all. So.
I wasn't saying one size. I'm saying for the inventory of Airbnb to be used in the Hotel Tonight environment, I think they're going to have
that's the play. I think it's the opposite. I think it's getting access for the hotels to be distributed on Airbnb.
No, that's a good point. I agree with you. Yeah. I think it's definitely two-way, but I saw that as more of an Airbnb boutique getting into a short-term window pickup space.
Yeah. I mean, I can see why they backfill inventory, but other than that, I don't think Hotel Tonight as a brand really is conducive to selling this kind of inventory.
Well, well, that, and I think, now that
great point.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, all the business things like the Airbnb work initiatives and things like that, they can say, hey, here's what you need to do on your cancellation policy. Here's what works. Yeah. And they're going to get a whole pile of data and behavioral information from Hotel Tonight and go, hey, who knows what they're going to, they may say, yes, we have really different personas here, which are just incomplete. They're mutually exclusive, really independent. Or, hey, you know what? These people do whatever, and here's some commonalities, and this type of itinerary they'll do this, that type of itinerary they'll do that.
Right.
Who knows? I think they'll have some really interesting stuff to learn. Which, unfortunately, I think the problem is for the major hotel brands, right? In this, not necessarily the owner. This is not good for the major hotel brands because Airbnb is going to have really, really interesting information. And when you look at the total, I mean, go on to SimilarWeb or something like that. I mean, number one in terms of traffic, Booking.com. Number two is Airbnb, right? They have got a lot of traffic, a lot of data, right? So
I mostly agree with you, Robert. I do think this is good for hotels generally.
Yes,
because
predominantly independent hotels, I think.
And specifically independent hotels, exactly right. But I think it's good for hotels generally. First of all, the more competition there is among intermediaries within the industry, the better off all hotels tend to be, because they're going to have to compete more effectively with one another. We have had a duopoly of Expedia and Booking.com for quite a while. So having a third major player is a good idea, at least until Google comes along and kills them all.
Or Amazon.
Right. But I mean, competition in the intermediary space is good for hotels as a general rule.
Lauren, timestamp this so you can go back 5 years from now and go, Tim, now that all these guys with the 5 intermediaries eating the world are, now I'm just...
Well, you know what reminded me of?
The problem is not 5 intermediaries.
No, that's true.
World. The problem is one intermediary.
That's true. Absolutely true.
Right?
I just pictured Monty Python's entry. The dun 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 dun, and the big foot comes down.
Exactly. I think Stuart, you're spot on that it is better for independent hotels. I think this is much better for independent hotels. And I think it's going to be a mixed blessing for the brands. I think they will gain from the benefit of, again, another player, assuming that Airbnb and Hotel Tonight, as a combined entity, want to focus on brands. But I think up till now, their focus has been, very heavily on the independent and on the different travel experience. And so I don't know that that's really good for brands in the longer run.
I have a technical question more directed towards Stuart, since he's more in tune with the Airbnb engagement. I noticed from having clients that have Airbnb inventory availabilities pushing up, they have this trend, and maybe it's just the clients I'm working with, to rename, relabel, reorganize, or redefine the rooms they're putting in an inventory in comparison to how they display their rooms in the traditional booking window opportunity. Is this something you see the same as, different as, a reason for, or I'm just, I deal with strange clients, which is entirely possible.
I think, I've seen a similar thing. And I think it's a smart approach, because the audience that goes to Airbnb is looking for something a little differently, right? So if you're going to a hotel website, you tend to sell a box of a room, and a lot of people don't do a good job of pointing out the unique layouts of the rooms or whatever it is. Whereas Airbnb specifically, there's a more discerning audience that are looking for characteristics that are important to them. So if you're traveling as a larger group and you have a lockout suite, explaining all the different nooks and crannies and the uniqueness, I think, is more important on a channel like Airbnb. You should probably be doing it on your hotel website as well, but just people don't, because they try to homogenize and because it's easier to manage that way. But
well, and if I can add to that, I mean, that's where independent hotels absolutely have an advantage over many flagged hotels often. Right. Because they often have non-standard rooms. They often have non-standard room types, et cetera. Right. So they have the ability to tell a better story on an Airbnb. Yep. Whereas if I may, to pick I'm a Courtyard by Marriott, with no disrespect to Courtyard by Marriott, it is a template. It is a standard format, right? Mm-hmm. Technically, it is a prototype, since we're going to use the vernacular. And if you're of that prototype, the double looks this way, the king looks this way, and that's, going to be the case consistently. Right. So calling out why this king Courtyard is different and better and unique and special and authentic to this king at Courtyard, it doesn't quite work. Right. So
good point. So the next one I wanted to talk about was under the technology section you had, Robert, about the RL Labs.
Wait, what? Are we done? We're moving on already?
I was trying to be clean and concise, like, hey, we got it covered. Let's go. What the heck?
I just wanted to say one.
You didn't want to do Airbnb. I was trying to be thinking like, hey, I want to be nice to Stuart. I want him to come back more. Airbnb. Dig it up. Okay.
I just wanted to make the point that this was the perfect exit for Sam Schenk and the Hotel Tonight folks. No, I'm not sure about the investors, because who knows how this.
Yeah, they have a lot of money in that, like 130 million, I think they'd raised in investment capital. So
but for Sam Schenk, who's now going to be heading the kind of the boutique or the independent hotels group with a pending IPO coming up, this probably worked out quite well.
For sure.
Yeah. He's been holding on all this time, not being cooperative, just waiting for this scenario.
Right. So what do you think? So what do you guys think the over-under is on them announcing when the IPO will be this year? Like, not that it'll actually be this year, but will they announce when it will be sometime this year?
I think they'll look at what happens with Lyft. When's Lyft actually? I'm not sure when. Is it July or something like that? Yeah. I think they're going to see what happens if Lyft really hits it, or they get indications that it's going to get oversubscribed or something like that through the roadshow and all that sort of stuff. But
it'll be interesting to see if there's more acquisitions between now and then. Because there's no question that this acquisition elevates their stock valuation tremendously.
Yeah.
So what else are they going to look to acquire and between now and then?
And probably not, for the expense of doing it. I mean, I don't know if they spent a couple $100 million. I don't know if they 500 million, maybe high, 200 million, maybe low. Who knows?
Yeah.
But their evaluation, they're kicking around 25 billion, 30 billion, something like that. That's not a huge amount of, change to spend. Because it probably added a few billion, right, in the overall valuation, or at least made the story that much better, right?
For sure.
So I think they would want to go between Lyft and Uber, sort of thing, right? And I think Uber might take a little while. I don't know, but
they got some cleanup to do.
Dara's still.
We haven't heard an official date on Lyft's IPO or anything along those lines. We don't know the date yet, do we?
I know they're doing the roadshow. Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, if you're saying the over under, I think that's exactly right. Split the difference between Lyft and Uber.
Yeah.
And that's the over under date for announcing an IPO.
Yeah, probably so. Cool. All right, Lauren, you may continue.
Thank you.
Can you do one of those like queens or kings waves while you do that, Stuart? There you go.
Yeah.
There it is.
Above the pearls, below the tiara. No, RL Labs. It's kind of interesting because it does connect to some of the other stories that you pulled out, Robert. But interesting because
that was intentional.
Huh? Yeah,
that was intentional.
I know you're smarter than I am. That's why I love your list. The idea of it is that there's these new services offerings from brand relationships. They're realizing this combination, but we also know that with the line RL Labs that they've been connecting data layers and innovatively looking differently at how they're connecting to their tech stacks, or what tech stacks they're offering for opportunities for property owners. And I find it very creative of them. Whether it's successful, whether it's as functional as they're portraying it to be, I think is a question mark. But for right now, well, we know that it sounds good on paper.
Right. How many says every technology purchaser ever, right?
Right.
You said it did this in the sales process, and now it doesn't.
Yeah, we plug into everything if we were allowed. There's that on the other end of it. So this idea that all these things are supposed to work in harmony and happiness, that's great if it does work that way. And then also, what does it preclude you from, and what do you still have accesses to? Like, do you have to make a full migration over to the platforms? Do you do a partial migration? Is this just a creative suite right now? There's still a lot of, I don't get enough detail out of their site to really know, is this just a service offering, or is this a commitment to tech?
Yeah, it was really vague to me. Like, that was the problem I had with the article. It was hard for me trying to figure out what was newsworthy in there in terms of what does this actually mean? Okay, you have something. That's what a press release says, but where's the story behind it? I don't know. I was struggling with this one a little bit.
Yeah, I love the concept. I mean, I love the fact that they're pushing out the fact that they're providing service platform and tech stacks to those who are going to join their thing.
But so is everyone, right? I mean, I guess in a way. So I don't know. It's just there's an awful lack of specifics, I would say, in the article.
Yeah, I'll give my take on it for what it's worth, and I don't have a strong opinion about this. I'm reminded of what Accor has done with their tech stack. I'm reminded of what Marriott has done with its test bed platform, where they're basically doing some IT acceleration or some technology acceleration there. I'm reminded of SkyTouch, right?
Which was
the last time that a hotel company basically said, "Hey, we're going to do this for our hotels and also sell it to competitors."
Right.
And what happened? SkyTouch basically had to split off as a separate company because nobody wanted to fund their competition. So, if RL Labs is designed to be a way to, accelerate technology development for the benefit of Red Lion, then I think it's probably a good move. If we're going to create a software company so that we can compete with software companies and sell software to our competitors who are also hotels, I think that's going to, crash and burn pretty hard. Ted Tang, who's my old boss at Leading, had a great line one time that stuck with me for a long time about, joint ventures need to exist for the benefit of the child, not the benefit of the parents, right? And if you're doing something like this because you want this to be a child company that does what's right for the child company of its own accord, then it should succeed fine. If this is, hey, we at Red Lion want to have our cake and eat it too, those don't tend to work.
So
is it a shiny object?
Is it a bauble for getting attention, or is it a real solution to a process that you're offering not only your constituents but those that want to maybe possibly join you? No, it's a very, very valid point. I know that, and this Hilton's. I mean, this is not to call out Red Lion, but every brand has tried to be that vanguard boom thing. Hilton is probably one of the more chronic ones where they kind of come to the market not completely on their concept, and then kind of stumble through the creative process once it's launched publicly. I think of their local programs and things back in the day when they tried to launch their local awareness programs, and they didn't give it enough bandwidth and resources. Phenomenal concept, well thought of, totally unexecuted wrong. I mean, it was a mess. So, these things do come out, and if it does go the way they portray it, it's a wonderful idea. If it goes the way you're pointing out, that it can be possibly just a bauble shiny object, then it's going to go over and backlash at them because it's not going to generate what it is that they would hope to generate it from. So yeah, I agree with you. I love the concept though.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
So wow, we're just knocking these things.
Well, no,
okay. Now, one that I'm slightly opinionated on. Booking.com pivots booking suite. Okay, Booking.com pivots booking suite, going on the same vein of the conversation, into a hotel tech app store.
Yeah.
I thought Booking Suite was dead. I honestly, because it's such a junk.
This is them doing CPR on it right now. They're trying to resurrect it.
It was a defunct, and still is, because I still have to deal with it from people. It's a defunct platform that is so WYSIWYG cranked up, simplistic garbage. It does terrible things, and it doesn't do anything right. And now you're telling me it's a shopping store?
Whoa! Wait, now wait. Hang on. Is it doing terrible things badly? Or
yes.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It does. It doesn't work.
Ah.
Wow.
I mean, hey, we don't owe to anybody. We don't have sponsorships we have to go over and kiss butt for. It's like, look, I deal with this thing. It is an oversimplified WYSIWYG and no customer support.
Well, let's be fair. Wait. Let's be fair. When you say that that's true of Booking Suite, define your terms. Are you referring to Booking Suite and all the various pieces of it, or are you talking about boutique?
Right.
Are you talking about the bit of it that is boutique?
My bit. Right. I'll take claim to the fact that what I'm dealing with, website engagement, that piece is useless.
What they acquired, right? So yes,
right.
I agree.
Right.
But what they're trying to become is a marketplace, which is different than that.
Yes.
Right.
So
and that's the thing I'm sitting there going, really? Get this right first, because I get nothing but automated replies to get support. I've been told there's not a living person in Europe now that actually is a service support person for the portion I have problems with. Yeah. As if they've abandoned the platform.
But you're talking about one component.
One thing. One thing.
Well, that's for people like you who want to use it effectively and optimize it, as opposed to the folks who just want to plug into the wall and the toast pops up and it's browned on each side, kind of thing. Right. It's not great. Sometimes it's burnt, sometimes it's not, but they get their toast, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. And that's my understanding is they got about 40,000 properties onto that platform or something. I mean, they did.
Right. Wow.
They've got a lot of. My understanding was they got a lot of folks on it.
Yeah, attrition rate is high, though. Is my understanding too.
Is it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what I would say is, and this is similar to the Red Lion thing we just talked about, and going back to SkyTouch. Look at who this is. Look at who the vendor is that's trying to peddle their wares to the industry, in what kind of trust there is in that brand already, right? There's a perception. This is similar to me in a way, even though it's a different product, but it's similar to how, again, and aligned with the hotel with RevPlus and their tools, right? Hotels are just really reluctant to trust these guys because they reluctantly use them as a distribution channel. The last thing they want to do is become more reliant on them, because at the end of the day, there's not a hotelier out there that if you went and said, hey, you could fill up your rooms and cut off Booking.com, there's not one that would lose a minute's sleep, say, and jump ship as quickly as they could, right? So this isn't a brand that has a lot of positive sentiment from the hotel industry that they're asking to spend more money with, or you become more dependent on. So
in Europe, the sentiment is startlingly high. I mean, it's not that they would,
in terms of it as being an effective distribution channel. Correct. They look at it and go, you know what? This works really, really well for us. So, at a price, with the pound of flesh that I have to give over as a consequence of that, right? So, it's kind of like, we use the term frenemy a lot for the OTAs in the industry, and it's they are a frenemy because you are relying on them and you do need them, but you would really prefer not to be reliant on them and not need them. So, I don't know.
The problem though, the frenemy part.
You want to get out. You want to get out of your mom's basement, and you're getting closer and closer to that. Why would you invest more in the basement that you're trying to get out of than go and spend that money getting out of it? And I think that's it's people don't want to jump more in bed with these guys. They just don't. Well, they rely on them as much as they need to. And that's it.
Stuart, you're in your mom's basement, okay? There's a white panel van outside in the street, and they're giving away free candy. Why wouldn't you get into that panel?
Oh, that's just Uncle Ed out there. Everybody knows Uncle Ed's crazy.
Yeah, we're going to come up with a different metaphor here for a second. Any other metaphor?
It didn't
we did call him Uncle Ed in tribute to Edward St. Ange, who is, I think he joined us on Facebook, but isn't with us live today. So, You throw them a little happy.
Ed sold that van years ago, Lauren.
I'm going to take a different stab at this because first of all, I want to make one semantic point, and then I want to get into the core of my point. The semantic point is, when they say they've pivoted it into, I don't like the framing of the discussion because I don't think that they're making it sound like Booking Suite as we've known it goes away and this is going to replace it. I don't think that's true. They're adding to what Booking Suite means, and that's why this is important. The reason, now to make the broader point, is because OTAs today have kind of hit saturation in terms of where they can grow and how they can grow. Right. I don't think we know what Booking Suite will be 3, 4, 5 years from now. I don't think we know what Expedia's various what do they call them? Supplier, direct. I completely blanked on the name now.
Yeah, partner programs, whatever it is.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Because they need to get deeper into the overall value chain for hotels and for the hotel tech stack of some kind to sustain their growth. So this is one more attempt by Booking.com to do that. If this isn't the thing, they will pivot again and add something else to Booking Suite. And if that doesn't work, they will pivot again and add something else to Booking Suite. The point is, Booking Suite is the name of the program that they use to get deeper into the value chain with hotels, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
No.
I think this is a smart move because it's clear Booking Suite itself and the features it offers. To your point, Lauren, some of them have gotten some penetration, but haven't really taken them any place further. Some of them are pretty useful, what Expedia is doing with Rev Plus and the other partner things, they're going to do more of that as well because they have to do that. They have to do it to succeed in the longer term.
And they do it for two reasons. One is it can help the hotels actually perform better, right? And get more bookings, promote themselves more effectively, and those sorts of things. So if they can help them do that, then that's good for Booking.com, right? Or for Expedia with Rev Plus, or because you look at some of these, they're paid on a commission basis. Hey, if this hotel can get their act together, get their ADR up, this is good. I think they make more. And then the other side is they get a hell of a lot of data.
That's right.
On the stuff to really understand what's the performance of the pricing of this is going to be ad performance, everything else, which are just more data points to consider. So I was going to say the frenemy side, the challenge is Booking.com though is a lot of marketplaces are very neutral, right? Which is fine. You put your stuff out there, you sell it. Everybody's kind of getting charged the same percentage, or they've got the same rules. Not like that with an OTA, right? Because they start, altering the sort order and going, the tiebreaker on this one is who pays us the most, the highest commission, and they get put. So they put their thumb on the scale. Right. And that's the part where that's the enemy portion of it, where they don't really care if you sell your product. They just want to make a sale. They want to convert a sale on their site, get paid at the best possible economics, and move on. Right.
I think I would like to echo something that Tim, you've brought up many times. Stuart has, even Ed, Robert, we all have said this recurringly, and it goes a little bit indicative of what I know I do with clients, new clients, old clients, whatever, is this panders, in my mind, it panders to the simplicity function of one size fits all, one plug fits the outlet, whatever you want to call it. The idea that the person that is the decision maker, the checkbook, you're telling me if I buy this, it fixes this. But fundamentally, at a certain level, there's no usability to it. I mean, oftentimes, Stuart, I heard you point out the fact it's like, why do it if you can't measure it and you can't control it to do what it is you want it to do? Just don't do it because somebody told you it was the latest product. Don't do it because it's the newest product. Do it because it actually solves a problem. You're persistent about that conversation. And as all of you are, you point out the fact is like, just because it's the newest greatest or because it's the latest greatest doesn't mean it should be the thing you should be chasing after. But this goes to the pandering to the things. Oftentimes I step into a new client and they have all these tools and they don't even know 80-90% of their functionality, capabilities, usabilities. And then they get it. And the question, the thing I always ask people is the same way when you build surveys. Before you kind of construct the question, construct what you would do with the answer should you ask the question. If you're going to put this in, what is it really giving you that's usable? You know, if you're going to get OTA Strategy, which is a wonderful platform, it really is. It has really grown up to be a nice platform, and there's a boatload of data in there you can twist and turn with. But I will tell you, I've yet to come across a client that even knows half the functionality of it. You know, they have it, they point to it, and they're like, did you know it can show you events? Say what? Do you know that you can look at change your competitive set at will? You can make 2 or 3 competitive sets. Really? You know, and you're sitting there going, you know, that's the cool stuff, right? You know,
but it's this, the whole this episode of This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing brought to you by
OTA Insights. Want to know what the hell's going on? Get OTA Insights.
But again, it's the whole minimum viable product approach, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
that's right.
These guys are going, we need a website. Right. We have no resources to deal with it. We don't know what we're doing. And there's one. We can get this. And it's free. Right. Oh, we only pay on delivered business of, whatever that percentage is, which is not necessarily free, but it's low.
Free is very different.
Low risk.
But it's low risk. Right. And it's easy and it plugs in and they check the box and we're done. Right now, Booking.com on the other side, from their perspective, should they make this a really amazing product that is so good you don't need to go to Booking.com, you just go straight to this hotel website? Maybe not, right? I mean, so they might not want it to be that great. Now, I think it should be much better, and I think it would be great if they had a lot of things where the sites really don't rank well and things like that. And again, I don't know how much that is intentionally, where they're just going, let's pull this stuff out and not throw in schema and things like, so it's not going to rank. I don't know, right? But you could see that certainly happening, going, let's not do anything in the grand scheme of things that would make this, if somebody's looking for hotels in X market, to rank above Booking.com. Right. So,
yeah. So, I mean, I get it from a strategic standpoint. I think any one of us would be pushing for this kind of initiative if we worked at Booking.com. It makes sense for all the reasons that Tim said. They're trying to find new areas for growth, things like that. But this is one of the many evolutions that are going to happen with this product, and one of many products that they're going to come out with to try to get, like you said, Tim, further down the chain, because if they don't, they see the risk that's coming from Google and from Amazon, and they've got to diversify. Otherwise, their margins are going to be, or actually their revenue is going to be, in threat in the next couple of years.
And they don't want these guys going from whatever independent hotel into a soft brand under the control of a major hotel group, and then all of a sudden, instead of whatever we're going to pay 12% instead of 18 or something like that, right? For the same.
Well, I've got a thought exercise for you. When I first ran across Boutique when I was at Leading, and at the time, we had 450 luxury hotels, entirely independent, largely headquartered largely in Europe, largely distributed in Europe. We had quite a few in Asia. We had quite a few in the Caribbean. We had some in America. But generally speaking, Europe's where the half the portfolio was or something.
Right.
And as late as 2011, when I left Leading, there was probably 10% of our hotels, 15% of our hotels who did not have a website. Didn't have one.
Wow. Right.
Didn't have one. Yeah. Yep. Right. Okay.
Email.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
when you're in charge of marketing?
I was in charge of digital, just to make it worse. We were trying to get them to have websites. They didn't need them. I'm an 18 room castle. We've been here for a century. Our guests come to us every year.
Wow. Right.
What do we need to market our website for? Right. I mean, there were different mindset, different point of view, etc. There were. That's a whole nother discussion we can have another time. Here's my question for you: if I'm going to make this a false dichotomy, right? Because there's a third option and a fourth option and a fifth option. But if you only had a choice, if you're a hotel and you said you could have a website that is a boutique / booking suite website, or you can have a Facebook page for your hotel, and those are the two options available to you to tell your hotel's story, what's the right one?
I'd go to the website every time. Because I think you'd have more control over that, and even though you don't technically own it, you own it more than you do the lease space on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And as is the news recently with Facebook, they can apparently arbitrarily decide to censor things, whether you agree with what they're censoring or not. They can choose to change the algorithm at any point.
Yeah, I know that didn't make the list of things today, but that privacy thing.
But let's stay on. Not that we can't digress in a moment, but Lauren, which would you choose? Would you choose a Facebook page or would you choose a Booking Suite website?
Oh, a Booking Facebook, baby.
You would say a Facebook page.
I'd take Facebook over Booking Suite website. I'm sorry, only because I'm so frustrated with their inability. They do not rank. They do not coordinate. They cannot be indexed. Well, that's not. They're very hard to index. They don't do tracking correctly. I could do more with creating more content on Facebook, given the circumstances you outlined as to that I can with their website currently.
Yeah, but don't you have to be a Facebook member to go do anything? I'm not sure, right? Facebook I think member. To have a Facebook account to go. I'm not sure if you're going to wind up doing anything clever with booking and things like that on it.
You can put any booking link you want through on it. You can do
remember, you don't have a website. On it. Wait.
Well, you don't have a website.
You don't have a website.
You don't need it.
So you would rather have the Facebook page.
But how are you?
I would rather take a Facebook page, given the scenario you gave me, given the comparison to Booking Suite, with my frustration I have with them right now. I think it goes to a podcast, which, by the way, Stuart, you're getting some competition, dude. LinkedIn opened up their podcast. Not bad. They had Seth Meyer on there, which I don't know why you don't have Seth Meyer on yours already yet.
I turned him down. He's not big enough for us.
Okay, well, I just we should agree with that. The other was that there's another one that says, if you had a laptop, $1,000 in 30 days, what would you do? To run a marketing page. And I think that's a neat premise to a conversation, to be honest
Absolutely.
with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going with that mentality.
I'm going with Booking Suite over
Here's my rationale. With what you said as the inventory type, Oldcastle or whatever, but a very strong recurring clientele, then that's a relationship that you could build based on giving them a channel of opportunity. Facebook could fill that, given the tools that you have within Facebook to use, and you can do bots and direct, communications and lead gen and communication, depending upon the inventory you have to fill, the frequency of your return guests. There's some modifiers to all of that. But if given the choices and the frustration that Booking Suite's website WYSIWYG has right now and its dysfunctionality, I think I can do more in 30 days with a Facebook page for them than I could with a Booking Suite website only.
Wait. Have a question.
Go ahead. Start.
He froze.
Yeah. Me?
Yeah, you're there.
Can.
All right. Can you run Google Ads to a Facebook page?
You cannot.
Can you run Google Ads to a Facebook page? No,
you cannot.
Okay, then that seals the deal for me.
Nope, but you can show up in Google with Facebook.
Sure, you should be able to show up if you have a good content strategy.
Yes.
With Booking Suite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we got 2 votes for Booking Suite. We've got 1 vote for Facebook. I am not going to tie us up. I absolutely would take the Booking Suite website every single day of the week and twice on Sundays.
I understand the argument for it. And
Lauren, I understand your argument. Your argument. I'm saying, when we're talking about what the product is, that's why the product exists. It exists for those hotels where the option is, do I have a Facebook page or do I have my own website? And the answer is you want your own website, period.
Right.
Can you have your own domain that points to it? You absolutely can. Can you have, can you start to create your own content? You absolutely can. Can you do all of the things you need to do? That you absolutely can. You should have your own website every single time.
And with Booking Suite, you get a booking engine also.
Correct.
Right? Yep. Which, so you get your Facebook page, you still don't have a booking engine, right? So,
and you got to tell all your customers, which these days this is less of a problem, but that you have to have a Facebook account, which again, admittedly, I started the framing with this little 19-room castle. A lot of their very wealthy, very discreet, very exclusive clients maybe have a Facebook page. They don't actually go on Facebook because that's not who they are. That's not what they do. And I realize that's a very small segment in this specific case, and I don't want to change the rules after I set up what the game was by any stretch. But I think you're never going to go wrong with having your own website, and there's a number of ways you could go wrong with having only a Facebook page. And that's really the problem that Booking Suite is designed to solve, is if those are your two options.
See, I want to split hairs on one thing. You said have a website, but you didn't say that I couldn't own a domain.
Well, yeah, but
are you flip-flopping now?
But
no,
I can't. No.
Because if I have a domain, I can have an email account, but not a website.
But a hotel's
but you can't point the domain to the Facebook page.
No. But if I have a domain, I can have an email account. I can have an MX record without having a domain.
I understand that, but you can have a domain. You can have a website and have a domain on Booking Suite.
True. Again, I'm sticking with the Facebook on the scenario, but I'm just saying from a point of engagement and value proposition of relationship, I could still produce, given the environment of the number of rooms and the repeatability of the guests on Facebook, as effective as I think with the dysfunctionality of a Booking Suite website that, to me, has no value proposition. It's not soliciting new customers right now.
Okay, here,
You've been burned, man. I can't believe how much you hate it.
Let's go find this 18-room castle. Me and Stuart, it's on, baby. We go get some gloves on.
I'll give you an example. Hang on. Let's use a real-world example. Your Three Camel Lodge. Three Camel Lodge is a very cool place. It's in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia, right? You can ride camels, and they have.
Why does Robert know this stuff? Why does Robert? What really? Honestly,
because of my work with National Geographic. Okay. So, in this particular case, if you go to their website, and it's very nice, it has beautiful pictures, and you look at this place and you go, wow, because they call them gers, but they're yurts, right? 46 yurts, outrageously fantastic, amazing place, right? Their website, you can't really see the pricing, and it's a freaking, like it's an email form, basically, to do it. When you click reserve on their website, you get a form where you can put in your information, when you'd like to stay, and you send it to them. That's it.
Here's my argument.
Wait. Let Robert finish.
Which is ridiculous, because these guys, I can't remember what they charge, but they also it's they get a very healthy fee, or ADR for it, and there are all sorts of it's almost like a little tour, right? You can go 3 days, 2 days, because you got to get in there and stuff like that. You just don't drive up. So you do all of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, if you have your own camel, now that is a good point.
100%.
But
they're going after the
personalization. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, you wind up doing that if you could get your pricing, your availability, that sort of thing communicated effectively. I mean, it's like, now 10% is expensive, but I bet these guys in their peak season, not to talk too far out of turn, they would run like maybe 65-70% occupancy, which was just criminal, because you're going, it's not that big, it's spectacularly cool,
right,
it's not open year round. These guys should be just like turning people. They aren't, right? There's massive friction in it. Something like that, you go, damn it. I actually, full disclosure, I wanted National Geographic to provide that, right? Like full soft brand services. They didn't really, they weren't really up for that. We'll see what happens with Disney, right? Disney, I bet, does that now that they own the brand. But yeah, I mean, something like that. You go get Booking Suite, damn it. You will make more money. I don't care if you're paying 10% off on.
Okay, I'm going to argue contrary to this completely for a lot of reasons. One is the one thing you can't do, and you can't tell me you can't do with just your website, is the influencer engagement. And I use this as an example of like the Maldives or any remote location. I'll take yours in particular, Robert. Okay, discoverability is about communication, capabilities of awareness. And when you talk about the fact that with Facebook, I have Instagram, I have influence, I have contact, I have communication, I have the ability to convey what it
Facebook,
is that's
you don't have Instagram, though.
You don't have Instagram. You have Facebook. You have Facebook.
You got a Facebook page.
Okay, that's Instagram too.
You're
adding. No, it's not.
You didn't take Instagram away from me. You just said that I didn't have it.
Wait, but if Instagram exists for one, it exists for both. I think you got to have it fair.
Instagram is social. That's connected.
We're talking about the mousetrap.
No, we're talking about where do you drive your customers to? Do you drive them to a Facebook page? You can still advertise. You can still market. You can still do all that.
Right.
You can still hire.
I will still drive to Facebook. I will still drive the engagement of a unique, isolated, small inventory, high returnability guest for expanded word of mouth and influencer engagement over a piece of crap website that just books windows and inventory.
I want a high intent purchaser who wants to book it, they'll wind up in deep into my booking.
Everything you just said about your location, Robert, that Booking Suite website would never convey.
Oh, wow!
What do you mean?
Wow, Lauren.
Lauren, I'll be honest. I've never used a Booking Suite website, but
I have.
It must be pretty bad if.
Holy cow. If you ever seen those it's the 1990s where it's like the little flashing.
Yeah, with the twirly letters and the purple background. That's Booking Suite's website.
No, it's not. I wish I could find
that's fine.
It is a hero image with a square image logo laptop pun over with a 5-point navigation bar top. That's
you can add.
Have you guys ever heard the phrase "a bad workman always blames his tools"?
God damn right.
Exactly.
Hence my frustration with this piece of junk. Anyway, yeah. My hammer is dull. I need a new hammer. Oh, dude, that's fun.
Hey, I will say one other thing just to kind of round this off. The other part of the strategy that
He froze again.
Every time I go to say something profound. No,
I know, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
We can hear you.
So the other part that I think is interesting for Booking is they've got to be feeling the threat. So they've got to differentiate against the other OTAs, because there's potentially a time in the future when maybe we do have 5 choices for distribution that are meaningful, and we don't need to rely on all of them. So we may have the option, at least leverage when we're negotiating with OTAs as hotels, to say, and I've seen this now, even some people say, hey, Booking.com, if you drop 1%, I'll go exclusively with you and I'll drop Expedia, right? So that already happens when there's more. So if Booking.com gets their hooks into people more now, that's less reason for someone to drop them versus the competition. So I get the strategy. I agree with the strategy, but it sounds like they need to improve the product just to make Mr. Lauren Gray happy.
And Lauren Gray is not very happy with him right now. But yes,
but Lauren Gray is not the target market for Booking.
I hope Zuckerberg gives me like some extra credit for advertising for backing his pony.
Well, and to be fair, and to viewers or anybody along the way, right? But I want to say something very bold in this regard. Anybody who's hiring you who doesn't have their own website, who has not actually had a real website built for them, with no disrespect to you, has chosen the wrong place to put their money.
Yes.
In all sincerity, right? In all sincerity, they should have checked a lot of boxes before you ever got there, and one of them should be having a real website. We're not talking about, is Booking Suite the right thing for a Lauren Gray client or a Robert Cole client or a Stuart Butler client or a Tim Peter client. We're talking about if the only thing they can figure out how to do is that their marketing coordinator, who is also the person who scrubs the toilets at night, is to set up a Facebook page or a Booking Suite website, they'd be better off with a Booking Suite website.
I will not disagree with that. In all honesty, I will not disagree. Because anybody not having a website is dysfunctional anyway. But given the scenario that you laid out.
How elitist of you.
One more thing, though. One more thing. Tim was going to say that someone who has a group of luxury hotels with unlimited marketing funds and the ability to let someone do whatever they want. Lauren is the wrong guy for that too, because that's Tim.
Tim knows how to handle them kind of budgets.
Let me just wait. Can we pitch TimPeter.com? Tim Peter's niche is really, really kind of high compensation, low effort clients. That's really kind of Tim's.
Money is no object. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
I would just like to say for the record, bring it on.
Bring it on.
If you're
I've got some of those laying around, I'll send your way.
I mean, and if anyone on this show would say they wouldn't take those folks on as a client, as long as I guarantee you, everyone on this show would not take them on if we genuinely felt we couldn't help them. But if we felt we could help them and they said, look, I want to pay you a lot of money and I don't need much of your time, I'm pretty sure all of us would say, yeah, we could make that work.
Fuel travel has...
You're the boss, right.
Fuel travel has...
SOW to read, exactly.
Right. The fuel travel account qualification questionnaire, Stuart just skips the what do you do thing. He just like, yes, we will go.
Right,
Check
you just
add there. Yeah,
I've filled in the beginning of the fee. You just add as many more zeros to the end as you like.
Just add as many zeros as you want.
It starts with a 9. Yeah.
All right. So the other one that I threw out there was the Loyalty Strategy Guide of 2019 because it's from LinkedIn. I have a couple of issues, go figure, with the list that they give as to thank you, Captain Obvious, to it, and I just don't know if you guys read it the same way as I did or not. But I put the link up there. But just to kind of be a spoiler alert, my problem with it is align with your corporate goals.
Right.
That kind of made me stop.
They're not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Whoa! But the number of groups and now, actually self-serving. I am going to say, do you?
I was going to say, do you have to disclose stuff here? Yeah.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I am an advisor to Currency Alliance. I had no participation in this particular thing at all, though.
So do you need to recuse yourself from the discussion, Robert?
Of course not. Of course not. Why? No. So
I'm not disagreeing with the fact that it obviously is. Thank you, Captain Obvious. We need to make sure that it's to the benefit of the corporation that's offering it. As to making it the lead point of a loyalty value proposition, I have the contention as to its prioritization. I think it's an awareness that anything you do for a business, it's business at the end of the day, period. It's not feel-good, happy charity. It's, you're driving more opportunity for the company that you're doing it for and for its benefit. That's a given. I think that's the Captain Obvious point. It's the prioritization of it.
I think... I don't mean to cut you off, but I think if it was that obvious, it wouldn't need to be said out loud. And it's amazing how many times we walk into, Lauren, you've had this happen. I know you've had this happen. You and I have had this conversation at conferences. I'm sure Stuart has had it. I'm sure Robert's had it, where you walk into a conversation with a client or a potential client and you say, so can you tell me about what your objective is with initiative X? And had the person go, that's a really good question.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the business goals between the organization. I always start my things with it. If I can't figure out the organizational philosophy, and sometimes you can't, you get new people in there, and we're going to blow this thing up, and it's like, whoa, okay, fine, you're now in a crater. And now what? So what's the philosophy? What are the business objectives? What drives your margin and your profitability? All that, let's figure out the business pillars here, and then you can go, great. Now what are you trying to do? Okay. So how does this bolt in? So many groups, it's either shiny object syndrome or we need a website. Right. And it's like, well, we're going to go do this booking suite thing. I think, Lauren, you'd be the first one to go, whoa, what are your objectives? What are you trying to do? Don't do that. That's the wrong, because you can't pick the right tool and the right strategy if you don't have your objectives nailed down. Right.
In the light that you presented it, Tim and Robert, I agree with you that, yes, to state it for the fact that you have some clarity as to the value proposition at the end of the day for the effort for the corporation that you're doing this for. I will say that to make that statement, to make it a point of clarity as to what's the objective from the internal perspective, I think is a valid proposition.
I mean, there are a lot of people who have said we have to have a loyalty program. Right. And they
because
may
these guys do, and these guys do, and these guys do. So
and let's be fair.
Mentality,
and they may well be right, and they may very well be right. But when you ask the question, why do you need a loyalty program? The answer might be yes, you do. But talk about what you're trying to accomplish with that loyalty program. Talk about what you intend to get out of it, so that all the things you do with that loyalty program tie back to that why. And that's a step that gets missed a lot.
And I agree with you. And that's actually probably the solid point that I completely agree with you from a different perspective of why this would be stated this way, because it goes back to a discussion of being a brand versus an icon. The Harley Davidsons, the Coca-Colas, and things that are icons, the Apples of the world that are icons, that people are loyal to a product for what they represent.
Well,
why do people wear Yeti hats for a freaking cooler? Because it's a lifestyle reflection. You know, it's becoming an icon in the process. Loyalty programs can be that, in the sense that you do it for the good of the consumer of your product at the detriment of your corporate cost. But it still is a corporate objective because it creates that iconic status with your clientele. When Yeti was, you know, Yeti coolers are like 4 times more expensive than everything else out there. But what they built was something similar to a GoPro mentality or a Red Bull mentality, which is it reflects a lifestyle. It's an icon of lifestyle. And so
that's branding. That's more branding. Though,
no, it's beyond branding. Branding is the creative catalyst, but icon is the end status. Branding is the process of it. Icon is the end status of it. And to me, loyalty programs fall into that potential categorization, that if you want to develop this fierce loyalty, I'm sure that all the Red Bull events that go on with the race tracks and the tractor trucks and the people flying around on bicycles does not make money. But it builds fierce loyalty for the iconic status that the lifestyle represents for the branding. So to me, you know, I agree with you on the part, Tim, saying that it needs to be identified as to the objective goal. This is to create a value proposition relationship even at cost level to the corporate, or this is supposed to make a monetization for our company. Those are goals that have to be defined. I agree with you. And to that end, I'll say that to put it in, but I wouldn't necessarily be making the first statement out of that process either.
I absolutely would. To me, it's like building a house. You got to have the foundation in place first.
It sets the foundation for the rest. It sets the table and says, here's why. It's telling a story, right? And you start at the beginning when you tell a story. So I think you're seeing it, Lauren, as number one is the most important, and I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a sequential list that builds upon each other.
Okay,
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
I
agree completely.
I'm not saying there should be other conversation, especially with you guys defining a little bit more as to how I saw it. My first reaction was like, really? You know, you're trying to do proposition of value rather than objectivity. And now you're saying, no, actually, it's objectivity. So,
and I will say this. Go ahead, Stuart.
He froze.
He froze. Well, okay, so I'll go ahead.
Man, I keep freezing anytime I speak. I don't know why.
The Stuart.
No, go ahead, Stuart.
Am I unfrozen? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to defend Lauren a little bit because I think the state of content in the industry and beyond our industry too is very vanilla and easily digestible and clickbaity and you know a lot of it is there's a lot of commonsensical content out there being peddled as thought leadership, and you know we leverage that some at Fuel for sure. A lot of our podcast content is common sense, but you're looking for the distribution channel is, and you might expect to have something change your mind or inject something into the conversation at large, when all they're really trying to do is regurgitate what we already know in a format because they had to write a deadline article or something like that. So
but I think in defense of Chuck, I think his first point and the conversations we've had with a lot of people about currency and their programs is, what are you trying to accomplish with your loyalty? Because some of them we're trying to drive direct in the hospitality sector. We're trying to drive direct bookings. We're trying to recognize, people, frequency. We're trying to provide, a direct connection. All we want is like a subscription name so we can upgrade the experience and provide them better. So, all those different things, which you could say, you want all of those, but the keys really come down to what are you really, really trying to accomplish? I think Marriott with the Starwood thing and this whole Bonvoy thing is like, how the hell do we hang on to all these Starwood people? Right? It's probably a major objective. How do we've got to put these things together, and how do we reduce the collateral damage? Right?
Yeah. Well, there's a great book. A woman named Erica Anderson wrote a book called Being Strategic. And it's really one of the best breakdowns of strategy I've ever seen. It's a good little MBA 101 introduction to strategy. But she gives one of the best definitions of strategy I've ever heard. And I think it's not because it's like so unbelievably brilliant, but because it's something that can be very complex, very simple, right? And she says being strategic means consistently making the core directional choices that will best move you towards your hoped for future, right? That's it, right? And that's pretty basic, but it's something people miss all the time. They think we got to have this complicated thing. We got to have all these different pieces. You got to say, Where are we trying to get to? What is our objective? What is our goal? What is the winning the game look like? Mm-hmm. And then make sure that every step we do aligns with that. So I think when we talk about, we're going to have a loyalty program. Great. Is that a consistent core directional choice that moves you towards a hoped-for future? If not, can it be? Then you should do that. If not, then guess what? You don't need a loyalty program. And what you're going to do if your hoped-for future is more direct bookings, it's going to be one thing. If it's we're going to make more revenue from our customers regardless of the channel, that's okay too. If it's something else altogether, that's okay too, but be aware of what that is. I think it's, again, foundational and makes a lot of sense from that perspective.
Well, and if you look at, you mentioned Leading Hotels of the World before. I mean, they just changed their program last fall, right? They were always a recognition program. They've pivoted to a points-based system now, right? Which is a pretty big directional change for them. Huge. I would say 5 years ago it would be hell no, we would never do points, right? That would be that'd be the worst.
But it's still, if I recall, it's still, to get most of the benefits, it is still a paid program.
It is a paid program.
It's one of the only loyalty programs in the hospitality industry that I'm aware who charge the guest.
Because that is loyalty. That
is loyalty, correct. Mm-hmm. And one of the goals, and I know this because I was there when we relaunched it the last time before the recent relaunch in 2009, we had heavy debates about whether or not we charged people for the program. And there were people fiercely on the side of you cannot charge, and there were people on the side of you can charge. And one of the things that decided that point was, is our goal to have the biggest loyalty program, or is our goal to have the customers who are most committed to our hotels? And the answer was the latter, which means, guess what? We want you to be the most committed. Demonstrate it.
Right.
Yep.
Pay up. Right?
If they're paying up, boy, that business model is we better damn well put these guys first.
Correct.
No, we'll compromise here, compromise. It's like,
correct.
That's
exactly right.
I'll say over the time, we've been doing this now for several years and so forth, and I always learn something from all of you as we continue the conversation. I have to go over and give credit, Tim, to something that I keep noticing why differences between how I look at things and how you look at things is I'm always the spherical, mission statement, goal set, horizon line, great. But then I start walking in that direction, and then I'll see another direction, and I'm willing to pick it up and try it. I know I still want to get there, but I'm willing to go there to get there. Where you'll question, is that better there going that way, or shall we stay on the same path? I think it's a critical asset to how you approach things, because one compliment I will persistently give you is that you get the ability to cut to the chase. I've had this conversation with Stuart, Ed. We all agree on the fact that there's times we're talking around everything, and then you cut to the quick. And I think that goes to how you see goal setting, from just how you explain what you're looking at. You look at it as a value proposition of, is it better or less to what we're already doing? I'll look at it as, let's find out whether it's better or less by trying it. And that it sounds subtle, but it's a definitive difference in how we approach project. Mm-hmm. We're still both going for the end project. The methodology to it can be from my perspective, I can sideline us a lot easier by attempting to try something where you'll try to do a value proposition. Where I think on the reverse of it sometimes is you may miss some small subtlety improvement opportunities.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Only because there's a singularity to the purpose of what you're trying to do. But I think at the end of it all, there's just two ways of doing it. But as a compliment, I sincerely respect how you look at approaching a project.
And that's very nice of you to say. That's nice to say. I would say, I think we get to the same place very often because I actually think our approach is very similar. The way the way we do this is very similar. One of the things we do and have done for years, this is something I picked up in my Schwab days, was this idea of core and explore, right? And it's this same concept of what Google used to do with 20% time. I usually do it as 90% or 85% of your time, your budget, your resources, etc., should be dedicated to that's the objective. Yeah. And then you leave 15, 20% to explore around these new things that you find along the way and say, is this worth trying, worth testing, etc. I think you do the same thing. You just take the 80% not for granted, but I think you lock it in so early, you just don't even worry about it. And B, you're probably more on the 20% side, not more on the 10% side.
Yeah.
Right. 20 versus 90-10.
I have a lot more variability. Yeah. Mine's more of a tether. Yours is more of a hard. Yeah.
But that's why I think we're suited to the clients we work with. I think it's why Robert's suited to the clients he's worked with, or suited to the clients he works with, because it works for the clients where some folks need to be pulled back in line and said, you know what? Here's the thing. Remember, this is where we're trying to go. Versus, we've done things exactly the same again and again and again. We need somebody to completely come in and shake it up. When in fact, what you're really doing is then we're not completely shaking it up. We're just going to shake up 20% over here. But to you, it's like a lot because you haven't shaken up anything in a long time or whatever.
It depends what the client's looking for. In some cases, it's like we've got to increase the improvement of this because the owners either want to take this to something bigger, right? Because maybe they want to build multiple properties and go down that path and franchise, or let's get up to where we can sell it. Maybe we can just walk away, but we've got to shore up some of the stuff that we're doing. And in that case, you may not. There may be opportunities for that 10 to 20 sort of thing to. Well, let's do this creatively. But the way I tie a lot of stuff back is, okay, these are the goals. Here's something that will deliver on that goal. Almost, what I do with a lot of clients is go, let's look at what the finish line looks like. When this is the performance we're shooting for, if we get this performance, everyone's happy, right? And everyone's like, yes, those are the 6 things that have to get done. Those are the things. Great. Now, what are the things that we can do? And there are some things that go, this one's a little riskier, but boy, if you've only hit 2 or 3 of those core things, you might not want to take the high risk thing on that. It's like, wait a second, we've got to short. Those other ones are coming in slower, or, we were expecting a 5% increase and it only came in at 3. That's not good. And that was our core thing. It was hitting 80% of our business. Watch out. That's going to pull everything else down. So
I look at it as like if the goal was to put Christmas lights on the house and I got handled a rat's nest of Christmas lights, I'd be trying to untie the knot. You'd say, go buy some new Christmas lights. You want new Christmas lights? You want lights on the bottom, right?
Yeah. Well, no, and that's a good example, because you might go, and I don't know, in some cases, depending on the size, if there are real rats in those Christmas lights, you may want to just get new ones.
That's what I mean.
At that point, if I see live rats in there, I am going to accelerate the buy versus build.
Tim would be stuck on it. He's like, look, you want Christmas lights in the house, right? Well, this is a rat's nest. Come on. Just buy some new lights. I'd be over there going, I got it. Ow.
Damn rabbit rats.
Might not be until next year they'd get the lights up, but damn it, they'll get those lights up. No,
what I might try to do is just, paint a light bulb red and hang it on the house and go, look, we're just going to redefine for the customer what Christmas is. It's positioning, folks. It's positioning.
It is, right. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. The last one that I actually threw into the list of was the AI wants to know how you. And this is because I was defiantly beaten down as to the ability of facial recognition software. I think it was 2 weeks ago, soundly by Mr. Ed and Stuart as being unavailable for usage. So I found it great that somebody's using facial recognition to go over and dominate the world.
And it's Expedia.
And it's Expedia. Because I miss, again, just to go back, for those who may not have caught the show, I was saying, you can use facial recognition to go over and do your security stuff, thinking, of course, simplistically, they're just using the access of your phone's security for it, not the actual software. And it was a very distinct point to be made, because I was just saying, you use facial recognition. And I was resoundingly pointed out that no, that is not the case. And they were completely right. It is not the case. We do not have access to Apple's facial recognition security system or anybody else's, but there is facial recognition security system stuff out there. And Expedia has decided to do it for sentiment. So, yeah, that's why I thought the article was pretty cool.
But in their lab, and not live, as far as we know, not live with your webcams.
We sure hope not.
Yeah.
Right? That may not have been revealed. You never know.
I did see a thing on Twitter, and this is a complete digression, but what the hell? At a security conference, The NSA had a booth, and they had charging stations. And all who were there at the conference were like, yes, because I'm going to plug my phone in at the NSA's booth.
Yeah. Into the USB. Yeah, into the USB.
Yeah, that's not going to go very well.
Oh, why did my phone reboot? Huh, that's weird.
To add to this conversation of the topic a little bit, and that is, I'm on the board, which was nice of them to ask me to, on what's called Sales Boost, and they have a sales training program. They have lots of sales training programs, and one of their programs is about repetition and engagement, and they have an AI algorithm engagement that they have on sentiment of voice. That is the difference between, they do front desk training and so forth as well. The difference between appeasing a guest that has an issue versus selling a guest that is looking to buy something. They actually have an intonation component to their tracking to determine the success of your repetitive engagement training that they do, as to how well you can change the inflection of your voice and the use of your voice, in addition to how you're curating the text of what you say in your communications. So you're not only being scripted repetitively, but you're also being listened and critiqued as to the genuineness that you convey by what you're saying. So you're not doing that. I'm terribly sorry for your inconvenience. Please let me know. You know, you're actually inflecting correctly that there is some level of sentiment involved with your deep abiding loss of their ability to be happy.
So we're using technology to teach people how to be more human.
Yeah, right? Yeah. How crazy is that? But the idea of it is that this is a growing aspect to, you know, sentiment. Sentiment is an aspect. I mean, if Ed was here, he'd be probably talking way up and pontificating. You know, the idea that there's more than just what's being said. One of the things I remember from Trust You when I was working with them.
I have a question. How much is any of that data being used as training to teach, you know, computer generated voices how to actually inflect more correctly?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think from their perspective that
that's what I would use it for.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, yes, you would. So when I was working with Trust You, they found something really interesting when they were doing, because they have a sentiment program. They've always had a sentiment program that they found in Japan, that the words used to describe a stay at a hotel did not in any way reflect the accuracy of what they were saying them for, because the Japanese are so polite by culture that they were using nice words, but in a way that was really derogatory of their stay. And it took them a lot of recalibrating their sentiment algorithm at the time. I wouldn't even say it's machine, you know, to reinterpret the terms as to how they were used from a cultural perspective, because meaning that it was a wonderful, cozy experience really meant it was small and cramped and blah, whatever it was, you know. So there is this what it means versus the words that are being used, which goes back to what we talk about with Google and so forth. Keywords are dead. It's not about word usage. It's about the use of the word.
It's about intent.
Intent. Yeah. Things like sarcasm are really hard for computer programs.
Passive aggressive. Yeah. So they are now picking up on passive aggressive sentence. Yeah. I love paying a lot of money for intermittent service.
Booking Suite is a wonderful WYSIWYG website platform. You should use it every day.
Bring it back.
All right. I'm thrilled. Everything.
Oh gosh!
Hey, there was one in the tech area. I thought it was a little bit of new. It was Google Duplex is now available in 43 states, not including Texas. So I can't use it, but it's on all Pixel phones. It started out just on the Pixel 3. Now it's on all the Pixels, and now it's going out to, you know, if you have a Google Assistant on your iPhone and things like that. But Google Duplex is a thing where you can say, hey, make a restaurant reservation at 7 o'clock, wherever, and the machine will call the restaurant and make the booking, right? It's pretty amazing, right? Everybody kind of went, wow. There was one little thing that I thought was very, very interesting in this, in one of the later paragraphs, which was, and I will quote, if a restaurant uses an online booking system of some sort, Assistant will skip the call and use Reserve with Google instead. Let's connect the dots, shall we? They say, get me a great hotel, you know, in New York City, you know, whatever on these dates. Okay. I mean, that's what you would say to, if you're an executive back in the good old days when there were administrative assistants, you could say that and your assistant would do that and it would be fine. You wouldn't have to say, I want to sift through these, or show me the options, or anything. It would just happen. And you would be happy because they did a great job because they knew exactly what you wanted.
Right.
So anyway, it's coming.
And I'm going to do, that's just it. That's just it. I'm going to my, shameless plug. We've talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show, but I think it's worth bringing up as we're having this conversation. The article I wrote for Hotel News Now about the distribution trend you care most in 2019, and the answer is Google.
Yeah,
right there. As I mentioned in the article, I hate that I'm quoting myself, but I just want to make sure people realize I'm using the words.
But it was one of the most brilliant things.
No. I just mean it's something that I want people to understand. I'm saying it, but it's something I wrote down before. I'm making this up on the fly.
Yeah,
like Google, the rest of us.
Yeah, Google is the beast that the 800-pound gorillas are afraid of. Right? It's the thing that monsters have nightmares about. Right?
That's right.
It's something, and you got to watch because this is where we're headed.
Right.
To include, and this opens up a broader conversation. We do not have enough time today to do with it, but obviously in future times it'd be interesting to discuss the new delivery system revolution that's happening in restaurants. The equitability of it. It was featured in some national news is that some restaurants literally are built under the construct of only being delivery based, that they have some small intent into seating, but rather than to pay for the accommodations necessary for that, their kitchens are huge and their seating is small. And there's one guy in New York, he has 6 restaurants in one block, and all of them have maybe 10 seatings each, but he is a machine in food distribution. I mean, he has Southern Cooking, he has Korean, he has all this, and it is nothing but Grubhub and Uber Eats and so forth. And then you add it into, and we didn't really discuss it much. I think, Robert, you put it into the list last week or the week before, the new reward system with Uber Eats, or with Uber. Just Uber in general, where you have gold status, platinum, and so forth. And what caught my ear on it was when I signed up, because I immediately got gold status because of what I've been doing the past few months. And whenever it says, and you also get preferred pickup. What the hell's that?
Because
does that mean I get put on top of the list when it gets thrown out to the drivers as this dude gold, or
There's an algorithm. There's an algorithm that says, hey, here's the closest driver who's going to go wherever, and how they pick the drivers, and it comes in with the driver scoring and the passengers. It probably ups your passenger score because you might have like a 2 or something like that, but it probably boosts you to a 5, Lauren.
Hey, I tell it like it is, all right? If there's a piece of lint on the table, or it's a dirty place.
But
if he didn't entertain me, he's a terrible driver. What?
Yeah, but they added another signal in their algorithm, and just said, and they're weighting it some way. Right, which is great. You hypothetically get, you're going to get picked up maybe a little bit quicker. And if it's raining in New York and you've got to get out to the airport and all that sort of thing, and it's crazy and it's rush hour, that could make a difference. And your repeated patronage of Uber would probably give them, of course, let's take care of Lauren because we've got a revenue stream and his customer lifetime value is off the charts, so let's take care of him.
I tell you what, Las Vegas was kind of funny because at MGM where I was standing, I go up to the front, beautiful lobby, everything else like this. Go up to the front, and there's the taxi station, the limo station, and so forth. I'm like, where's Uber? So I look up Uber, and it's like it refuses to. I mean, it shows me on the map, but it shows me there's this pickup station. Where so I go over and ask the guy. I says, "So where's the Uber pickup?" He says, "Oh, go back inside." Blah 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 blah. You go inside. You go way through the rest of the community parking garage on the far other side of the resort. You have to go upstairs, no elevators, up 3 flights of stairs to get to the 3rd floor of the community parking spot, which is the shared ride pickup center. Mm-hmm. They made it so inconvenient. Like, guess who's in tight with the taxi service in Las Vegas?
Well, who runs it? Maybe it's who runs the taxi service, and nobody wants any problems with that.
Right, but airports are like that
money too, right? How much people are paying to have access? Like some airports do that, right?
Airports do the same thing. Yeah, you have
high amount to be allowed to come on property, and if Uber refuses, I think we went to Vail last year, and the Uber was across, like you had to walk 10 minutes across the street. And we asked them why, and they said that the drivers don't pay the same fees the taxis do, so we don't let them on property.
There's a lot of airports that do that. I mean, I'm not detrimenting to MGM or anything like that. As a matter of fact, Tim, I don't know if Tim can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just saw you put your earbuds on. So at MGM, I was telling you, like, when I went there to speak and so forth, it's very rarely I get into my room, but I had all the CEOs from all the major hotel kind of things in the room. I had all the I'm like, I didn't build this presentation for these people. I built it for the department heads and, stuff like this. It's like, I'm sitting there going, it's like the queen walked in. I'm like, holy crap. Whole change of venue for me. I'm like, oh, geez. But it was fun. But yeah, they was really neat out there. But it also goes back to something we talked about, is that we're so used to talking about it at the level of conversations we have, and not to say it's highfalutin or anything, but there's a lot of times that there's some basic understandings that are just missed. There's gaps.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff that it's just not understood as to how something works or the availability of it. And sometimes it's like, to them, it's like a piece of the puzzle that all of a sudden is like, aha. And then other times it creates a massive confusion of, what the heck? What did you just say? What does it do? What? It's like almost a coin toss as to which way it lands sometimes when you're hitting topics and so forth. So.
Hey, can I throw in one other? Can I do one other topic before the rut row that I just thought was an interesting nuance one? It was the Playa Hotels and Resorts. It was actually kind of saying direct bookings are major boosts from Hilton's loyalty and website, blah, blah, blah. That has nothing to do with it. Playa Resorts is an interesting group. They build all-inclusive resorts in Mexico and the Caribbean. And they've been very, very successful. They've got a great management team, deep experience. Kevin Fromming, who runs marketing, he's at Sandals for years. Really, really know what they're doing in the all-inclusive space. Well, the interesting thing was they had a bunch of hotels, and they're independently developed. They're the owners, so they were building some, and they have several that are under AM Resorts, right? That they own and manage, or they own them, and then it may be managed by AM Resorts, right? So Secrets and Dreams, things like that, which is part of Apple Leisure Group. So they also signed an exclusive deal a few years ago with Hyatt. So they did Hyatt, Ziva, and Zilara, and I still forget, one is for families and one is for adults only, and I can't remember which is which, but I think Zilara, I'm not even going to guess, right? Not great branding, that was Hyatt's deal, but these, they have these. That's fine. So they have this exclusive right of first refusal deal with Hyatt, which I think ends in 2020 or something like 2020, I think, 2021. They have now signed an exclusive deal with Hilton, which is interesting, with right of first refusal, and converting some of these hotels that they have into Hiltons, with the condition that they are going to do a certain number. I think it's a total of 8 or something. So they have, I think it's 3 that they converted already. So they're okay with that. I think those Hyatts are going to become Hiltons somewhere in the 2021, 2022 sort of thing. So very interesting how Hyatt seems to be backing out of the all-inclusive space, and Hilton seems to be going into it, which is pretty interesting. So anyway, cool. I just thought that was an interesting nuance. And the other thing that they did is, because of the merger of Mark Travel and into Apple Leisure Group, things like that, they cut off Apple Leisure Group completely. Mark Travel used to give them something like half of their wholesale traffic. That is now gone, right? Because they don't want them getting the data, having all the inventory, all the rates, even though it shouldn't work that way. They're just like, nope, we aren't. They didn't work with Apple Vacations before. Now they don't work with Mark Travel. So interesting things in the all-inclusive, because these guys have like 20 really successful all-inclusive resorts that they've been the developers of, that are under these different brands. And boy, this looks like it's going to be a Hilton shop going into the future. So anyway, interesting things in the Caribbean and in Mexico. So anyway, you want to go to the rut row? Okay, so what? Well, I have some feelings on this one, but this is the headline is, a hip hotel in Denver, their radical pricing model lets you pay what you wish. So please elaborate. You guys think this is a great a great idea. They said they're calling it fair trade pricing, right? Because they feel.
Can I just say real quick on that point? Barf.
Yeah,
because that is almost offensive, given what fair trade is supposed to be.
Absolutely.
That is just makes me ill.
Right.
It has nothing to do with whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea, but co-opting that term, it violently offends me.
It is, and I know I need to watch my language on this program. This is the most fucking stupid idea I've ever heard. And I am limiting my language on this thing, right?
Yeah.
These guys
and you've heard all our ideas for several years.
They
and they're
are
pretty bad.
morons, right? They are morons because it's this whole you've got a price. It just complete PR.
Yeah, it is a PR shit, right? And it's been tried several times in the restaurant.
It's $90 to $220 a night.
Yeah.
But when you stay, if you don't like it, you don't have to pay that. You just pay what you want. Well, I'm going to stay for a freaking year, and I've decided in advance it doesn't meet my things. It's $1. So sue me, right?
Right.
It's like, no, this is not. This is not good. But the offensive thing, Tim is dead on. Fair trade pricing was set up so if you're a coffee producer and you are using, indentured children to go pick these beans, and that's maybe legitimately that's all you can afford because coffee prices are so low, right? That is just, these are the economics. We can't afford as a business to pay anybody more. Fair trade goes, no, you're going to pay them this much. You're actually going to pay a premium
beyond the basic economy.
So they aren't doing, so this is it's an additional amount.
It's to use.
It has nothing to do
with fair
with
trade is to use economics to get rid of bad behavior.
Right,
exactly.
Exploitative behavior. Exploitative behavior. Yes,
right. Exploitative behavior. Right. Exactly.
I'll bring in the humanistic aspect of this too. And from doing 1,001 garage sales and doing 1,001 barterings and so forth. Okay, none of us go to our clients and say, okay, so you want us to do all this stuff? You can pay us what you think it's worth.
Right. Correct.
Because in all honesty, they don't know where to put a stick in the sand either. For them, you mean when it comes to garage sales, it's over. So how much is this? $5. Oh, you must be nuts. That's only worth 50 cents. Well, you must be nuts. It's worth at least $3. Oh, really? Well, I think I'll pay $2.50. Good. There you go.
Right.
Well,
but nobody wants to be that person of not. It's like it's the same thing. We don't go to our clients and they say, "So you want to do all this stuff? So what's your budget?"
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you what they're willing to spend. They're going to tell you what they're...
Wait, whoa. That's what Stuart does. We told you.
Oh, does he?
What is your budget? How much do I have to learn? Yeah, what's your budget and how much do we have to do to get that? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Having a budget question after you're in bed with them of like, okay, so what it is that we have to work with is a different conversation than how much do you want to pay me? So it's like saying, so how much you got in your wallet? Yeah, well, that's amazing because that's exactly minus 1 penny what we charge.
No, and what I loved on this is just so ridiculous on so many different dimensions. Soul Community Planet was born out of a vision to make the world a better place by serving those who value personal wellness, social good, and the environment. It's like, well, you know what? They value that. They should be paying a premium for it.
Correct.
You shouldn't have an operation that disappoints people where they aren't going to pay what you're asking, because it should be fair and reasonable and give them such a great experience. They don't have to say, oh man, no, I'm never going to pay that. Right. And so, the price our guests pay should be a function of the experience they've had, not an arbitrary value based on a yet-to-be-had experience. We're going to make it an arbitrary value based on a previous experience when it's too late to even negotiate or do anything.
Does that mean if you go to a bad movie and their concept, if you go to a bad movie, come on and say, I'm sorry, but I need
I want my money back.
I want my money back because that movie sucked.
Wait, I've done that.
Well, that's good.
I've walked out and said this movie's garbage.
Have you really?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. Done it twice in my life.
Which movies?
The Godfather and Star Wars.
Star
Wars. Friendship ends here.
I didn't do it at the end of the film. Let's be very clear.
He did it. He did it at the end of. He did it at the end of Star Wars 8 and wanted his money back for the previous 7 as well.
No, the first time I did it, I think I was like 18 years old or something like that. I was a kid, but I walked out of Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser movie.
Really?
Oh,
God, such a bad movie. That is a horrible, horrible, horrible movie.
I still cringe when the guy caught his shoulder on the nail, but that's another story.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It was supposed to be a horror movie. It was supposed to be a thriller. It was supposed to be all this. It was the very first instance that I knew of like torture porn and gore porn and stuff like that. Not my
I never saw that.
Not
this
the
sounds
movie
interesting.
I signed up for. I walked out. I didn't hear what you said there. What?
Wait, Stuart and I haven't heard of this movie. What movie is it?
It's a cult classic. A lot of people disagree with you.
A lot of people disagree with me. Those people really need to have their heads examined from my perspective, but to each their own.
Help. Yeah.
So what was the
Good
second?
for you, not for me. I want my money back.
What was
The second one? Love Actually? No.
Dude, one of the greatest movies of all time. So good.
No, yeah, I was going to say Love Actually. How dare you knock that movie?
Yeah, that's my wife's favorite movie of all time. It's
Really?
certainly one of my favorites.
Wow. Okay, I wouldn't go that far necessarily. But
She's weird. She married me. What can I say?
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there's a
She's got a
benchmark
weird
there.
thing for the English, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
By the way,
Wait, what was the second movie? We need to know the second movie.
I hate to say this. I don't remember now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay.
50 Shades of Grey.
No, I wouldn't have gone to see that.
Hey, great movie tip that you guys probably haven't seen is Gully Boy. Go see Gully Boy if you can find it.
I haven't even heard of it. What is Gully Boy?
I know nobody's heard of it. It's a movie. It's the Indian or the Mumbai hip hop scene. It's based on a true story about a guy. The entire caste system of he's supposed to go be an accountant or something like that because his family, saved money, and he just gets into hip hop. It's fantastic. It's a great. It's in Hindi with English subtitles, but we stumbled upon it. One of the best movies I've seen in recent memory. It was great. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm going to see Captain Marvel this weekend, so my tastes and yours may be a little different, but sure, I'll go see Gully Boy later.
Saw that last night. Basically the same kind of story.
No reviews, no spoilers. La, 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 la. Anyway, looking at the time, it is 10.
Yes, it is time for us to say goodbye to all our
She's
friends
got blue blood.
MICKEYMOUSC.
Stop, Robert.
Just remember, folks, August 29th, put it in your calendars. It's a special day. Star Wars World. Star Wars, August 29th.
Oh, open? Oh.
Yeah. With very little fanfare. Just kind of like, their gate opens up.
They don't need a market. They came out and said, we don't need a market.
Yeah,
exactly right.
They will fill up every night.
Really,
why? Yeah. They'll get more people in there than they can deal with, and people will be pissed off because the lines are too long. They can't get in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting. So we had and I never really thought about this. There was an analysis done on the theme park that was closed in Myrtle Beach. It was called the Hard Rock Park. And so they were going through why, and they was looking at pricing and advertising and things like that. But one of the things that came out of all of the research was because it wasn't that popular at the very beginning, there weren't long lines. And a lot of people were measuring their excitement of a theme park. And you never really think about this, but part of the fun is the lines and the anticipation. Yeah. And then the reward of the ride, right? So because they never created enough demand to have long lines, or because they were focused on efficiency and getting people through the rides as quickly as possible, they reduced the lines. They said that was a major contributing factor to why it wasn't successful. And I never really thought about that before. Like, you don't go there to line up, but it does psychologically have an impact on whether or not you enjoy it.
I know a guy who opened a restaurant when they were in soft launch. For the first 2 weeks, they were open for 2 weeks before they took any reservations. And literally every night, he just invited friends and family to come and eat so that the restaurant was full, but nobody could get in and get a table. And anyone who called for a reservation was told, we're booked solid for the first 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And literally, they've been full pretty much every day since the day they opened.
Yeah,
perception's reality.
Scarcity is a powerful
perception. Well, again, perception's 80% of reality.
And they got 2 weeks to iron out the kinks with
that's right.
Didn't get any negative reviews in the first 2 weeks because it was all friends and family.
I do want to in the next episode show something. I do want to bring in the new deliverables and so forth. I'm talking to a couple of restaurants and the value proposition of what they represent for the deliverability functionality, the expansion of their product, but the detriment of the commoditization of their product from an experience-driven side of things.
Sure.
There's yeah, it'd be fun. So with that in mind, Mr. Stewart,
Trough and Brew is a winner, Lauren. Trough and Brew. Great.
Well, you have me at Trough, so I'm okay with that.
You have me at Brew, I'll be honest.
Exactly. See?
Add on. It's like, we're good with that one, too. But anyway, Mr. Stewart Butler, for those who want to know about you, Fuel Travel, the amazing podcast that I now persistently listen to every time I work out. You're my mentor.
I also persistently listen every time I work out. Unfortunately, I only listen once a year.
Hey, you're the next one.
Currently on episode 2.
You two together are my workout. Between the two of those, that's my time duration. That's funny. That is, it's a guarantee. Those are the two I get, and then I start picking up these random other ones if I decide I want to be more athletic.
If I'm going to work out, I'm only going to listen to Tim's podcast to work out to instead of
because it's 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes versus an hour, right?
Listen on double speed. You're good.
You know what? You should add that in your tagline, Tim, for those who like to work out.
Quickly.
There is a reason why it's 20 minutes, by the way. Do you know what the average commute in this country is?
Yeah, that's
22 minutes.
About 25 minutes.
Yep, it is. It is, and that way you don't have to go back to it. Oh yeah, that's been a good stat. It's been a good stat.
So I just want to go with them to work and from work. That's why we're twice as long as that.
That's right. That's right. Yes, you want to get the whole show. So, Mr. Stewart, where is it they can find you, sir?
Fueltravel.com, fueltravel.com/podcast is where you will find us.
And Mr. Robert Cole, all the encompassing value proposition of Rock Cheetah.
Oh, wow. I don't know where you find that. Got to update the website. Rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole on social media.
If you need a new website, I heard the booking.com has a really good platform.
I know. Yes. I know. I was thinking of that booking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
That's that sentiment we talked about earlier. Right?
There's that sentiment thing creeping in. Mr. Tim Peter, sir, if they want to know all the illustrious things that Tim Peter and Associates do, where is it they can find you, sir?
timpeter.com, timpeter.com/podcast for the podcast. I am TC Peter on Twitter.
Outstanding.
And
wait, what's your Google Plus? What's your Google Plus address?
It was
Google-.com.
Google minus. Actually, I'm about ready to start splintering. I'm gonna put the show on its own website here in time. But right now, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live to get a link to this and the show notes and all the other topics Robert was generous in putting together in curated form that we did not get to talk to about today, but we did go through the list quite well. And you can find all previous 186 episodes also attached to that. So to that end, thank you everyone for having listened to us live, for those who are on Facebook and also for us here and also on YouTube and on Twitter. And if you listen to us recorded, please listen to the end because it's always fun to listen to us until the very end. Till next show number 188, next Friday, 11:30 Eastern. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Bye.